Podcast City Network. The Everett Lee Show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Everett Lee Show. I'm the Everett Lee. I want to give a shout out to everyone that follows me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on Podcast City Network, your top source for independent podcasting. Be creative, be yourself. And today, I have on the podcast with me right now, I have Sam Stackhouse, independent wrestler. How you doing there, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, it's that was pretty fun time on Deathmatch Wrestle podcast, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I had a good time. Yeah, that was fun. I'm glad I finally got to do it. I was supposed to do it a month or so ago, but it didn't work out. So I'm glad I finally got to do it. That was fun.
Yeah. David's a great guy. I mean, last night I got pulled in when he was having Lobo on.
Uh-huh.
I got pulled into that there.
Yeah, I saw he shared it today, but normally I go to bed early because I got my real job. I go to work at 2:00 in the morning, so normally I go to bed early.
Oh wow, that's like me. I get up at 5:00 in the morning and then try to get my daughter ready, drop her off daycare, and go clean pools. Until the afternoon. That's pretty much my day right there. Cleaning about over 20-25 pools a day.
Wow, goodness.
Yeah. Right. I get up right before the sun starts rising, and then I get home, and then at least I have some time to do for myself and stuff, and then it goes by quick. And
it does. Because I'm off usually by 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning already, but then it feels like it's 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Like right then, I'm like, man, a whole day. Because I get home and I'm like, I got time to relax. I'll relax a little bit. I've been up since 2:00 in the morning. I can chill. And then boom, it's like 7 o'clock, and I'm like, dang, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, time gets you, man, and especially when we spring forward, man. By the time I get up, it's gonna, daylight's gonna be happening. Yeah, but man, I looked into a couple of matches of yours because there's not really too much I know about you, just from what I gathered from watching Deathmatch Wrestle's podcast when you're on there. But when did you get into wrestling, or what was your first experience of wrestling as a kid growing up?
As a kid, I was just talking to my buddy about this today. I think the first live pay-per-view I ever watched was an ECW pay-per-view, because I remember it was RVD versus Sandman. I don't remember which. It had to have been the same year as the WrestleMania, or right before it is the WrestleMania where they had the first TLC match with the Hardy Boys and all them in it.
Uh-huh.
That was around the time. That was the first I remember. I remember seeing it before then, but that was what I remember that ever since that day I've been watching wrestling. So that's the earliest I remember where I fell in love, and I've been watching it ever since. So.
Oh yeah, ECW days were the best, man, because they had some crazy stuff going on. They had some great pay-per-views and just great talent out of ECW.
Well, a lot of those guys were ahead of their time too, because some of those guys back then were having matches that are people are still having today. Because some of those spots, crazy spots people see now, they don't realize, and they think those are new things. They don't realize that Kid Cash and people like that, they've been doing that stuff for 25 years.
Exactly. And the thing that Paul Heyman did for ECW was he he took what was popular in Japan and brought it over here to the States, and it was something that the U.S. wrestling fans, a lot of them, never seen before.
Yeah. Well, it was a mix. It was just like an ECW show. You could see someone dang near bleed to death, and then you could see Rey Mysterio and Chris Benoit wrestle each other, and so it's just crazy the different kinds of stuff you can see. And then you could see Big Show was there for a little. They had giants there, they had little people there, they had everything in between. They had hardcore, they had high flying, they had everything.
Yeah, they definitely did. They definitely did. And even during the Monday Night Wars, they were in the middle, because when WWF, WWE, and WCW were going head to head Monday nights, ECW was right there, and Bischoff would take talent from ECW and bring it over to WCW. Oh, yeah. I mean, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio. Yeah. And then even
Stone Cold was there for a little bit.
Oh yeah. Stone Cold was him and Mikey Whipwreck. They had a little rivalry going on.
And some of those promos that Stone Cold Steve Austin cut there was part of the reason why he became Stone Cold Steve Austin in the first place.
Oh yeah. He got fired from WCW, and then he goes. Paul Heyman calls him up and has him come to ECW, and he basically ECW was his. How would you say it? It would be his creative playground.
Because he was hurt, so he couldn't wrestle, so all he could do was do promos, and it worked out for him.
Oh yeah, it did. It definitely did work out for him. I mean, Hall of Famer, legend. He's one of my favorites. Yeah. He's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing today since 2014. So I got to give it to the Texas Rattlesnake, man, because when I first heard his podcast, I was like, what the heck is this? And then listening to him, I'm like, I love this. So got into it, and I used to listen to it all the time. I was upset when he sold the Broken Skull Ranch too, because I used to love when he was out there, when all the episodes when he was out there, and during hunting season, those were the best ones. Oh yeah. I couldn't believe that. Yeah, he moved out to LA there, and he stayed out there at 316 Gimmick Street. I love that. Yeah, that was pretty good name for his studio and stuff. Oh, yeah. And I seen on a show that was on, I think it was on Pluto TV. They got a pro wrestling channel, and I was watching that. And on the pro wrestling channel, they had a like a show called Wrestling Days, and they had someone they were following around, and while they were following around this person, he was on Stone Cold's podcast, and he just basically had a basic setup, mixer, laptop, microphone, headphones. I was like, I love it, man. I love it. How simple can you get?
I didn't want to overcomplicate anything. I imagine he recorded it and sent it to somebody else who can do all that jazz.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah. He's doing what is it? The Broken Skull Sessions on the network now, and he said that what he likes about that is it's less work. All he has to do is just show up and just talk to the.
I imagine they have everything all set up and everything for him. It's not a bad gig.
Oh yeah. With podcasting, you have to be a producer. You have to do all this stuff. Yeah. People don't realize how much work goes into it, man. Just like being working a match. They don't realize how much goes into it.
Nope. There's a lot, man. It's crazy. A lot goes into it before, during, after.
Yeah, there's quite a bit that goes into it. When did you decide that you wanted to be a wrestler? When did you decide that you wanted to pursue this?
Well, it's all pretty much because of my brother, because he's the one that got me in wrestling anyways. And he noticed since I was a kid that I was always bigger, but I was always doing flips and jumping off of stuff and doing stuff all the time. And he recognized that, so he always talked to me about being wrestling, because we originally wanted to be a tag team. But he's 14 years older than me, because I was obviously an accident, but that's another story. But so when we were first going to start, his knees were bad, so then he started talking about just being my manager and all kinds of. So we had all kinds of plans, but he never got into it. But then I was probably, whenever I figured that it could, I decided that I wanted to do it, I was probably 16 or 17, and I started training when I was 19.
Oh, okay. That's amazing. When you decided to get into training and stuff, who'd you train with, or where'd you go for that?
It was funny. I was at a party. I was 18 barely turned 18 at the time. I was at a party, and I had on a wrestling shirt and another guy on a wrestling shirt, and then we started talking about wrestling. And then he told me that there was a local place that ran in town that we live in. So then I just started going as a fan there. And then I found out they had a school, and then I showed up one Tuesday, and I was trained by some local, like, Oklahoma guys. I didn't go to like a big school or anything like that. I trained in a tiny little room at a church in downtown of where the town I live in. So, or town I used to live. Yeah.
Wow, a tiny church, man. That's amazing, man. I mean, did they have they had a ring in there and everything?
Yeah,
what was set up like?
Basically, what it was like this tiny, like, or I say tiny. I mean, it was a decent sized place, but the room we were in was like off to the side, and like there was enough room for there was like a 16-foot ring, and it was only maybe 2 feet, like the canvas or whatever is only like 2 feet off the ground, so it's a low ring too, and it's heavy, just solid piece of metal basically in a room, and they could fit maybe 100 chairs in there, and it was it was packed every week. He was running every Saturday.
Wow.
I mean, they packed that little church every week and then they sold the church, and then we stopped running shows there. So
wow.
Yeah, I trained there every Tuesday and then Saturdays before the shows for about 6 months.
Wow, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. Now, when you first got in the ring, what was your mindset on that when you first got in the ring there, when you first started training? How, like, mentally, how did you feel mentally when you were in the ring there, when you started to learn how to bump and do everything?
I was good until that first bump. That first bump, I was rethinking some things, because also the ring I trained in it's an unnaturally hard ring too. Because like most rings are hard, but this one might as well just trained on the concrete. If I'm being honest, it was rough, because it was like one of the wrestlers had built this ring, and when I say it was just a big solid piece of steel, pretty much, like it takes a minimum of like 4 or 5 people to move each side of the ring. That's how heavy it is, and yeah, it was sturdy. But I mean, like I was stoked, and then obviously I thought I knew everything that there was that I needed to know about wrestling, and then I had no idea. But I mean, mentally, I was ready to go. Like as soon as I got in the ring, I was ready to go. I was already main eventing WrestleMania in my own brain. So
that's cool. That's cool. When now going through the training, and after learning the bump, learning run off the ropes and stuff. After like getting rope burn, of course, you get rope burn in there. Like mentally, like what did you think about that?
Well, I mean, it was starting out. It's a struggle every week. But I was watching another podcast today, and they had Scotty Too Hotty on there, and he was talking about that you can't teach passion, and I was like, that kind of hit with me, because it makes sense, because like just to get through training, you have to want to do this, because it takes a whole lot to learn how to make your body do the stuff that we do, like just mentally get over the mental block of throwing yourself off of things, not knowing what's going to happen when you hit the ground, not whether it may work out, it may not work out, so it takes a mentally tough person, and it takes someone who loves wrestling to be a wrestler. And that's why wrestling, I've seen thousands, but I've seen hundreds just in Oklahoma. I've seen people start and not make it very long, and they wouldn't be around, or they'll call themselves wrestlers, say they've been wrestling for 10 years, but they have like one match every 4 years or something like that, just because it takes dedication, and you have to want to be a wrestler to be able to do that stuff and keep on it. And especially at the beginning, because it's a whole thing. You got to retrain your mind mentally, because obviously it's not natural to throw yourself around on the ground. It's not natural. Right. So you have to get over that mental block and stuff. So, but once you get past it, then it's just second nature now. So.
That's good. That's really good. Now, after going through the training and everything, and you're getting ready to have like one of your like exhibition match or first match,
yeah.
What was your thoughts on that when you're finally get in and do the dance in the ring? How was that?
Nerve-wracking, because I was wrestling. It was my very first match. Was me. It was supposed to be me, and the promoter had like this jobber character type thing called Cobra Kai, and it's supposed to just be me and him, and I was supposed to be heel, and I was supposed to just basically squash him. But then the one of the main guys that trained me, we were working before the show, and he tried to do like the flare over the top rope bump and like land on the apron and like walk to the other side. And when he did that, he sprained his ankle.
Oh,
So then they ended up making a triple threat. So I was in there with both my trainers, but they were both wearing masks, so it was weird. But I hurt my back in my very first match too. And took a ride in the ambulance the next day, so that was fun.
ooh.
But because I tried to do, I don't know if you remember, but Abyss is one of my like top people in my life. So, and he used to do that shock treatment move where he'd set him in like the torture rack, and then he'd take the butt bumps. So it was like a back breaker on his shoulders or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I did that to the guy who trained me, he was probably a good 45, maybe even 50 pounds heavier than the people I'd worked on it with. And when I came down, the weight of me and then the weight of him compressed my spine so much that my back was hurt the doctor told me I'd be in pain for like 6 months, and that was 12 years ago.
Wow.
It was not great. It was bad. But it's all been uphill since then, because I've been really lucky. That was probably my worst injury I've ever had. It happened in my first match, so I guess I got it out of the way.
That's good. That's good. You get that out.
As far as my mindset, I was obviously nervous, but my whole, like, back when you first start wrestling, like, half the crowd's your family most of the time anyways. When you first start, that's why promoters like new people, because first 6 months it's like a shiny new toy. So you got cousins coming out of the woodwork trying to come to shows, brothers, sisters, everybody. So I was in a home crowd, and then I was supposed to be a heel. It didn't work out. I ended up being a face. So people don't boo me for some reason. I try, but it just doesn't happen. But it was nerve wracking, but I got through it, and I'm glad.
Yeah, the audience is the best, because I've talked to people, I've talked to workers that they've doing a match, one's face, one heel, and then the crowd's like, no, you're heel, you're face, and then they have this all planned, and then now it's like they get in there and they get that moment, is like, we got to flip this. And so
that's what's the best. That's one of the best things about wrestling, is people get all hung up on, it's scripted and all this stuff, but people don't realize how many moments happen just organically, because a fan might say something that you didn't anticipate, or they might act a certain way, or another wrestler might, like, you might notice that they're doing a certain something you can pick up on. And that's the best thing about wrestling, or one of the best things about wrestling, is just how, like I said, some of the biggest moments in wrestling history, I bet my life were like just organic. Like some of the biggest moments that they hit you right in the feels, they hit you in the feels because they were, you can't plan stuff like that. You can have ideas, and you can kind of hope for the best, but there's so many organic moments, and that's like a lot of the reason why stuff is happening for me right now that's popping up is because it's organic, because it seems like no matter where I go, I have an organic, like, connection with every audience I've been in, because I've never wrestled, like when I did the GCW shows. That first one I did in Texas, I only wrestled in Texas one time, and it was like 6 years ago. And then after that triple threat match, they thought that that was like a home building for me, and that was like my home crowd. And when I told them that I'd never been there before, because they were chanting like, "Please come back," and it was insane. And that's happened every single time that I've been in front of a bigger crowd. And like that's what I love about wrestling, is the connection with people, and it's insane.
Yeah, having that connection with fans. No matter if you're face or heel, I do like the heels, because you can draw heat on yourself there, mm-hmm. and you can rile up the crowd and stuff.
It's way more fun being a heel.
Oh yeah. You can get grandmas getting ready to come over that barricade there. Yeah. If you can piss grandma off, and she's about to come over that barricade, you're doing your job. I took my mother over to a wrestling show. It was a promotion that was probably about 4 minutes from my house here, and my mom wanted to go, so I went. And she got into it. She was getting into it where she's coming up out of her chair, and she basically was coming up out of her chair. She's like, get him, punch him, kick his butt. And they almost broke kayfabe because they were getting a kick out of her. And then during one of the matches, they came out in the crowd and they grabbed a ladder. And my mom jumped right up and she's like pointing at him, hollering, is like, "You leave him alone. You leave him alone. You don't do that. No, no, no." And they're just laughing. They're like, "This woman is great, man."
That's the best when you can get someone who's not even like a wrestling fan. When you can get them into it, I mean, that's one of the best things ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she got into it. God rest her soul, man. One of my favorite memories with my mom was taking her to
awesome.
a go wrestle show, and she just got into it, man.
And I bet you there's like thousands and thousands of people whose best memories with somebody important in their life was because of wrestling. Because I mean, I'll always like wrestling will always be mine and my brother's thing. Like, anytime I think of my brother, I'll always think about wrestling. Anytime I think about wrestling, I'll think of my brother. So.
Oh yeah, like my father.
Yeah.
My father, I've said this on other podcasts. He pretty much, when Ric Flair would come on TV, he was a Dusty Rhodes fan. When Ric Flair would come on TV, he wanted to throw the TV out the door. I think he threw it out the door a few times. He did. And when it came to Jim Cornette, when Jim Cornette came on TV, he cussed him all up and down too. And me and my brother would laugh about it because he didn't like the he didn't like the heels. He didn't like them, but he loved Dusty, man, and he hated Flair, man. He said if the atomic bomb ever went off and everyone died, the only thing to be left in this world would be cockroaches and Ric Flair. That's how much he despised him. But when Flair got into made his comeback in WWE there, when he was like the Raw general manager or co-owner, they did that storyline. He loved Flair. He wanted to see Flair kick Vince's ass every night. He did.
Hey, you gotta pick the lesser of two evils then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He said, my dad leaned over to me. I remember this, and he leaned over and he said, "I'm tired of Vince's shit." He's like, "I hope Flair puts him in the figure four tonight." I just loved it, man. That's awesome. Yeah, he was something, man, and he was. But when a lot of places, like you said, you wrestle face and a heel, depending on where you're at in the promotion that you're at, correct? Yeah. But
mainly it's like 90% face now. Because like I said, it's hard. Anytime I've done a heel run, it only lasts so long, and then they start cheering for whatever good guy I'm beating on. Then they start cheering for me to beat them up. So, but it's just, it's just like I'm not like I have a hard time not being me, and I'm a pretty happy person. It's not easy for me to be like mad or me because it takes a lot to make me mad. Number one, so. It's hard for me to even pretend to be mad most of the time. So, that I think people probably pick up on that. And they're like, "I'm not gonna boo this man." So, I think that's been the problem because, like I said, it's hard for me to be anything. I'm not good at pretending. I'm not an actor. I'm not good at that part. That stuff is just me.
Right. Now, once you got out of training, okay, out of school, out of wrestling school. What was one of the first promotions that you went to work for?
I trained. The one I trained at was called Compound Pro Wrestling. That's where I trained at. And then there was the next one I went to was Mid South, and it was in Oklahoma City. So I went from Tulsa to Oklahoma City, and that was the first time I ever traveled. And then like the first faraway show that I did was like way outside. Was I went to Iowa with a group of us from Oklahoma went to Iowa. And we wrestled there, and that was the first time that I ventured out of an hour or two from my house.
Right.
And then once I got a taste of that, we wrestled in some tiny town that Shellwig, Iowa, or something weird like that. Where there was probably 250 people there, something like that, and that was probably 98% of the town. So it was one of those type places, but it was a super fun show. Like I said, that was my first taste of being on the road to wrestle and stuff like that. So, but other than that, for the first few years, it was mainly just Oklahoma. Well, for the past 12 years it was Oklahoma a lot, but
right. Now, getting out there and trying to get work, with the promotion and stuff, like mentally, like you're new, you're green, no one's heard of you except from what when you approach yourself to when you approach a promotion or a promoter. How did that work out for you? Did you approach a promoter about getting booked, or did they word of mouth?
When you first starting out, you pretty much try to like ride the coattails of the people who taught you how to wrestle in the first place. So I would like drive if my trainers had a show in a few towns over or something like that, I would drive them to the show, and then I would go in there and meet everybody, and then hopefully get put on like a battle royal. Or I even there was one show I rode with somebody with, and they had me ref. I was twice the size of both the wrestlers in the ring, but I was the referee. So, so I mean, it's just stuff like you just go. Because I mean, when the first GCW show I got on, I just came to meet everybody. I brought my stuff with me because you always do. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I had no anticipation of actually being able to get on the show, and they gave me the opportunity. So, like that. But when you're first starting out, that's super important, because I don't know how many shows I went to when I was the first 2, 3, 4 years in the business that I wasn't booked on, but I had a friend that was booked on it, so I went with them. And then, like I said, I'd get put in a battle royal, or I even ref that time, or I would do it. Like I would just help take down the ring and meet them, and then hopefully next time when they knew that they were booking my friend, they'd be like, "Hey, is that you gonna bring the people in the car with you again?" And make it put in a tag match, something like that. And then once you get the opportunity, I stress this to anybody who asks me: once you get the opportunity, you have to deliver. It's on you to deliver once you get the opportunity, and then as long as you do that, it just keeps you just keep working your way up and keep making more connections, because wrestling's all about networking.
Right.
There's somebody in this business who knows everybody. There's somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So if you want to get somewhere, you just you got to work your way there, work your way up.
Yeah, you definitely do, because once you get your foot in the door there, you pretty much you get to take that opportunity, and you have to deliver and stuff. You definitely do. Now, when you're getting booked, when you're first starting out there, when you were getting booked, did they book you with someone that was green like you, or did they put you with a veteran?
A lot of times I was put with like veterans to help out, but I mean there was plenty of times where I was wrestling like I probably had no business being in there without somebody to walk me through it, wrestling people who also had no idea what they were doing. But I mean that's part of the learning. I mean if you get comfortable in wrestling, that's the quickest way to get out of wrestling real quick, because if you get comfortable, then you're going to end up getting hurt, or you're going to end up acting wrong in the locker room and something's going to go bad if you get comfortable. So being out I don't complain about any of those matches that probably shouldn't have happened, but I mean they have. I guarantee you not one of them went by that I didn't learn. I either learned something new to do, or I learned something new not to do.
Right.
And that's what that whole first few years is for, is learning that stuff, so that once you start to get bigger opportunities, it makes sure that you're safe and you know what you're doing, and you're not going to end up hurting somebody or hurting yourself and stuff like that. That's what those times are for. So I wouldn't take back all those wrestling for frees and paying my way to get there. I mean, I wouldn't take back any of that stuff. I wouldn't give up any of that stuff for anything, because it made me who I am today, and it taught me a lot. Like I learned the 6 or 7 months that I trained was all that was blown out of the water in my first few months of like traveling around wrestling. I learned 10 times more just in those few months of being on shows and being just being thrown in matches with people I've never met and stuff like that, and even people I met. I learned something, but I learned way more in those first few years of traveling around and stuff than I ever did training. So like I said, I wouldn't take back any of that stuff, any of those beginning stuff for anything.
Right. Now, when you're working with a veteran, and did most of the time, did you discuss putting a match together before the match, or did you call it in the ring?
Well, see, the thing about where I live in Oklahoma, so it's very old school. So there's a lot of calling it in the ring here. Because like I said, it's very like the fans are old school, like the wrestling's old school. Everything's still pretty old school here. So there was a whole lot of learning on the fly and just trying to keep up and make sure that my ears were open and my mouth was closed, and I was, while still trying to learn how to work the crowd, but at the same time trying to work in the ring. And that's like you were saying earlier with the podcast stuff. There's so much that goes in to just, everybody thinks that you just go out there and do some moves and call it a day, but it begins like if you're doing a wrestling show, we might get to that building at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. That's 10, 11, 12 hours before the show even starts. And we've got videos to film, promos to do, pictures to take. And then on top of that, most of us have 9 to 5, or well, mine's not 9 to 5, but most of us have other jobs. Right. I've got a wife and kid. I've got some friends that are wrestlers that have 5 kids and a wife and everything. And, and they've got football games and basketball games and soccer games. And we have gymnastics and stuff now. So, there's a whole lot that goes into this stuff. So, and that's another thing that I want to try to get people to understand too, is like the stuff that goes into this. Like people, and I'm not saying, and it's not even specific to wrestling. Like if you take any job, you can take what people might think is the simplest thing in the world, but to the person who does that job, it's pretty important, So
yeah, exactly. Just everything that goes into it, because that's one thing I like about wrestling is when last year I had the opportunity to work for a promotion down here in Florida, CFWE, from January to September. I pretty much was the production, the graphic designer. I edit and put out the shows, and that right there, like mentally, it just, when I started out, I didn't know nothing. I just only, put together in my head prior months of how I'm going to do this. And then it just started, you can see the elevation, evolution of it growing and stuff. By May, and pretty much from May to September, I consider those would be our best shows for the fact that with it being like that, it just, there was a lot more I learned from, and I did the work and stuff and everything, but like putting them, editing the matches and stuff, I spent hours.
That's what I was thinking. People, I've gotten a little taste of that too. One of my best friends, he's making waves in the wrestling production space and everything, and he's taught me a lot of stuff, because I've had, before my YouTube channel got taken down off YouTube, I probably had 100 matches or so on there, and most of them I edited and stuff myself. And he taught me how to do the multi-camera and stuff like that. But yeah, people don't understand what goes into it, because if you edit one match, that match may only be 10 minutes. But if you've got 3 different camera angles, then for that 10-minute match, and plus you got to add the commentary, and if you have to add graphics, you might watch that 10-minute match 50 or 60 times by the time you're done with it. Mm-hmm. So that 10-minute match, you might work on that 10-minute match for 2, 3, 4 hours, just to get it right. And people don't understand it. People don't think that every single time that camera cuts, that's someone pressing a button to do, that's someone physically making that happen. That doesn't just, that doesn't just happen on its own. There's no software that does it. I mean, there might be nowadays. Who knows? Yeah. But I doubt that somebody at an independent wrestling show has access to that type of software. So people don't understand it. Like I said, but I mean, even in WWE, there's still someone doing that. Everything that gets on camera, there's a person holding up probably that 80-pound camera that's following these guys around and stuff like that. So there's a lot that goes into these things.
Yeah, when I was doing CFWE, I was in the back there, and when I was sitting in the back there, I had a walkie on and the roaming cam, because we were using this old hookup camera, like news camera type deal, and we were using that at first. But then by the third show, we went to handheld cameras, and I was sitting there in the back. I had dual monitor set up like I have right here, and I had a walkie, and I could only see the hard cam. And then we had a monitor in the back for the boys, which they loved. They thought they were special, man. They're like, "Oh, we get a monitor?" It's like, "Yes, you do."
That's always nice.
Took a a VGA splitter, ran monitor for commentary, 2 monitors for me, one in the back, and I'm sitting there watching the hard cam, and I'm watching, where the roaming guy is, and I'm on there. I'm like, sitting there, like, go more towards the, left. Stay there.
Yeah.
Hold that position. All right. Zoom in. Okay. Like that. And he's, I'm directing him, and I got the promoter right behind me sitting there looking over, and he's like, that looks pretty good. Yeah, can't wait to see that. He just, and that's just pretty much how it went there. And then I took the footage home, and I sat here, and it was like I did 8 like we have a 9-match card, 8 match. Be lucky if the booker's like, you know what, he'd contact me and say, cut this match, cut that match. Sometimes 2 matches may get cut. But, you stunk up the ring, no one wants to see it. So, that was his rule. You stink up the ring, your match gets cut. And I'd pretty much, I'd get the show done within a week and have it ready, rendered and everything, and then upload on the promotion's YouTube channel. And I bet you had wrestlers in your inbox every day wondering where the footage was, huh? Oh, yeah.
Is it up yet?
Yeah.
Can I just get mine?
yeah. They're like. I mean, it was like they recorded their stuff, but when they would record their stuff, they couldn't. We had a rule: you don't upload it. One guy made a mistake. He recorded his whole match and threw it up before the show came out. Guess what? He got cut. His match got cut, man. Yeah. He's like, what happened to my match? It got cut. Why? Because you
already saw it.
Yeah, you upload it. No one wants to see it now. But later on, it did come out. It did come out later on in a collection of unseen matches. We took all the cut stinkers and stuff like that. We threw it all together in one collection. Unreleased stuff.
I've got terabytes and terabytes of wrestling on my computer. I've got a few hard drives because, like, what I used to do is me and my friends, we were in a group called the Clockwork Clique. We all like the Clockwork Orange movie. Yeah. And then we all like Jay and Silent Bob. And then I made a joke one time where, since we were the Clique, and when he's doing where he's like, I'm the Clique Commander. I would say that, but I would say Clique Commander because I was like the Clique Commander. And then we all each had a name. It was like Clique Commander, Click whatever, Click, yeah. But I would always be like, I'm the Clique Commander. Wherever you see the Clique, you'll see this face. And it's just
that's great. I love that, man. I definitely love that.
But we would set, like, I would have a camera and I would just set up the tripod, and I would just record the entire show. So I have like terabytes and terabytes of Oklahoma wrestling on here because I even made a YouTube because I had this big old plan where I was gonna like edit them all and like just start uploading random matches or whatever, just like get them off the hard drives and get them onto YouTube. But that's a project in the works still.
Now, since you brought up the footage and stuff, has there been anything that when you go back and watch your matches, you say to yourself mentally, man, I should have done this different, or I should have done that?
Literally every single match that I've ever had in my life, I'm my worst. Like, that's my only. If I can point out one of my downfalls, that's my only one. Is I'm my own worst like critic, and it's very hard for me to like compliment myself and like accept compliments and stuff. Because really, I've also always told people that I love wrestling and I love what I do and everything, but I'm also not built for this. Like, because I'm not like the most like extroverted person, I guess. Like, I'm a home person, like I would not feel bad at all if I went like weeks without talking to people type person. Like, I'm okay with like I'm more of a in my own world type thing. Right. So which is the opposite of a pro wrestler. So that's been the hardest part for me, like mentally and stuff, is to I've had to learn how to deal with stuff like that. I've had to learn with people talking to me and being nice to me just because of what I do in the ring and stuff like that. So that's been one of the toughest parts of my wrestling journey, I guess.
When I know, like, you were talking about promos and cutting promos and stuff. I know you want a lot of workers want to land that's starting out, and when they're doing promos, some hate. It's like, man, I hate doing promos because I seen it there back, last year when I was working CFWE, when it was like, okay, we're gonna do promos before the show, and we're gonna throw them in. Everett's gonna throw it in there, with so and so as they're editing the show. They're gonna throw them in there before the matches and stuff. So a lot of people I heard like, man, I hate promos, and it's like some people are like, they'd kill it one take, promos. They definitely would have that.
I can do a one take like comedy style promo, but like I'm not good at those, like where I gotta act like I'm mad and all that. I'm not good at those. But I can do actually just just talk to the camera type promo. I can do that. But like I said, I'm not an actor. That's the part that I'm not. Yeah. That's just not. And I mean, I don't like. I've been successful without having to be an actor, so that's worked out in my favor, I guess.
Like having the mindset, when you go in with a mindset to do a promo, what works for you when you go in? Because it's like, say you got a scenario of like someone called you out. All right, well, I'll throw a scenario out there. Someone calls you out, and they're basically they're gonna, at the next show, they're gonna, take, they can't wait to get you in the ring, and then, they're gonna, tear your ass up. I mean, how mindset do you put yourself into that when they cut a promo on you? How do you, put your mind into like, how am I going to say something back, but not come off as a heel too? It's basically like, I suggest like wrestlers take like improv and stuff like that. Cause I mean, it's literally all it is. You have to, especially if it's a live promo and someone's just shooting stuff off of you, you've got to be able to shoot back at them, just talk. Because basically all promos are is you take a situation and you just basically do what you would do in that situation. So if I've got some guy in my face telling me how bigger and badder and everything they are than me, then I'm gonna look for ways that they're not bigger and badder than me. And if they are bigger and badder than me, then I'm gonna try to find a way to make them look dumb. Because if they're bigger and badder than me, then that means I'm probably smarter than them. And if they're smarter than me, then that means that I'm probably bigger than they are. So if it's like a little guy talking mess to me, then I'm just going to talk about how much bigger I am, and how once I get my hands on him, there's not going to be anything he can do about it. Or if he's smarter and faster than me, But if I was like the smaller guy, then I would just talk about how like I'm smarter than you, I'm going to outsmart you, and every time like you're too fat and slow, you're not going to get your hands on me, just stuff like that, And then if it's like if you're lucky enough to be involved in like a long-term like storyline and stuff like that, like me and my buddy, he's my best friend in real life, and we worked it was like a 2.5 year long like blood feud type situation where we like attacked my wife, and our kids were involved. It was it was a big old thing, and it ended up like a big old bloody monster. Like we had like a bunch of Monsters Ball matches with Abyss himself, and then we had like a big old blow off like Monsters Ball match between me and the guy. And but I mean, like I'd put that story that we told up against pretty much anything, because like I said, we had people crying and whatnot. It was like that. Like I'd be okay if I never like I felt that. So like that was a big thing for me, because like my whole thing with wrestling, I said it's opposite, because I might sound bipolar, because like I said, I'm not an outtroverted person. Yeah. But like, the main thing in wrestling for me is the connection with people, because I know how wrestling makes me feel. Like I know that wrestling can make me mad, sad, happy. Wrestling has made me feel all of the emotions that like wrestling's responsible for some of the best things in my life. I met my wife through wrestling, so I wouldn't have my wife or my daughter if it wasn't for wrestling. Because I did a show in the town we live in now about like 8 or 9 years ago now, and the promoter randomly put her as my manager, and now we've been married for 5.5 years and have a 6-year-old daughter. So I like wrestling. Like I want to make other people feel what wrestling's made me feel. So There's been certain wrestlers who did things like I said, like some of the biggest moments in my life, I remember them through what happened on wrestling that week or whatever. And like the biggest thing in wrestling for me is that I get to do that for people. Like there might be the main fed that I built myself in Oklahoma was for WFC, and it's Wrestling for a Cause. And basically every show is for a child. Like all the money goes to that family to help with either expenses, and in some cases it's been to help with funerals and stuff, which was really brutal. But like I know that some of those people that were coming through that show, to those shows especially,
were, I mean, it's the worst, literally the worst times of their life. Some of these parents are watching their daily as their child slip away from them, and some of them got better and some of them didn't. But I mean, some of these families were going through the worst parts of their lives. But then we've got videos, and they made like a little mini documentary and stuff, and you can see, because it was just like the camera caught moments that people didn't know they were being recorded or anything like that, because it was just somebody sitting on the side. And you can see, like, in some of these kids who have, like, some of the kids have had like stuff hooked up to them and stuff during the show because they were sick. But you can see like the smiles on their faces and like the family smiles, and you can see the parents looking at the kids, seeing their smile, and that's making them smile and stuff like that. And all of that is done just because some guys decided that they wanted to get dressed up in some spandex and slap into each other. Like, that is just amazing. That's awesome, you know.
It is.
That's why no one will ever convince me that wrestling isn't awesome, just because of stuff like that. I've seen it firsthand.
Right.
How awesome it is. I've seen wrestling save people's lives. Like people have joined this like wrestling community that were on the verge of suicide and stuff like that, and in real dark places, and they use wrestling to get out of stuff like that. And anything that can save someone's life like that is no way in any shape or form bad in my book.
Right. Wrestling does it does it saves people, taking them out that dark place like you mentioned, because a lot of wrestlers go down that dark path and hit those dark places, which you don't want anyone to see that happen to, because it just once they get down there, it's hard to pull them back, and once you pull them back out there, and then they get back on track there, and it amazes me, seeing someone, go down that path. And then with wrestling, it also helps too. I mean, bringing them back and stuff, and it is. Oh yeah,
wrestling has taken a lot of people down a deep road, but like I said, it's also been what brought them back,
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy. I can see how a lot of these wrestlers, like you've seen through history, all these wrestlers dying young and just living these rough lives. And I mean, I can see how. I mean, this is, like I said, this is a lifestyle. This isn't like for, especially on some, if you want to do this on like a real level, like make like it be your job and like take care of your family doing this stuff, you're good. I mean, it's good. It's not an easy life at all. You're on the road. You're beat up all the time. And like I said, there's so much more stuff that goes into these matches, because people think that, oh yeah, they had a cool match, now they're just going to go out and they'll be fine the next day. But you don't realize that if you have a killer 15-20 minute match or whatever on a Saturday, chances are come Wednesday, Thursday the next week, you're still feeling that. But in your own brain all week, you get so used to being at like a constant like level of pain being a wrestler, because generally something's always hurting.
Yeah.
So that's why some of these wrestlers their bodies get so far gone, and it seems like it happens like that, but it doesn't really happen like that. It happens slowly. Like you'll get an ankle injury here that you don't take enough time to heal or whatever, because you got bookings to make, and then you'll just keep taking the ibuprofen, and then that leads into like worse pain pills and stuff like that, and it just snowballs, and people don't understand that, because like it's a whole mental game to me, because pain. Like being in pain all the time is one of the hardest like things to do. That's why like people with like the disease that make them in pain all the time. That's why that's not a long life expectancy, because being in pain 24/7, it doesn't just affect your mind. It affects all your body, because you're stressed out more. All these things, and people don't understand like any job, and plus it's entertainment too. Yeah. So your entire like. Your body and like your face, your body, everything, like you are the product. So therefore, like it's a whole lot easier as a wrestler to get all self-conscious about yourself and stuff. It's super easy, because a lot of these bodybuilder types, stuff like that, they have like the body dysmorphia and stuff like that. There's all kinds of issues in wrestling that nobody talks about, right? Mental issues. And I wish more people would talk about this stuff, because like imagine how much better it'd be if we all openly talked about this stuff and like supported each other. So like say one of us gets an injury, that's the hardest things on a wrestler, because then you've got to call these bookers, you got to cancel your booking, you have no idea what you're going to do, you don't know how bad it's going to be, you don't know if you're ever going to be able to perform like you did before the injury, stuff like that. That's stuff people don't, and like there needs to be more support for stuff like that,
right?
And not from fans, but like wrestlers need to support each other, and then like wrestlers need to support the production people need to support wrestlers. We need, like, everyone needs to get together and support, and everything would be so much better. But like, also at the end of the day, wrestling is an entertainment thing, so 9 times out of 10 people are, out for themselves, and it's not great. But
Right.
I hope to change that, because I've said this, and this is probably the 4th podcast thing I've done, and I've said the whole thing. The only thing I want to be remembered for in this business is there's not one person that, when I'm done with this, is going to be able to say, "Oh, that's Sam Stackhouse. He was such a dick to me," or "He treated me bad," or he talked bad about me, or "He talked bad about this person," or "He did this, did that." Like, my entire, like, if I can make it through my entire wrestling and no one be able to say anything bad like that, then that's all I want. I want people to know. I want people to, like, I want people to basically treat me like I treated everybody else, because
Right.
like, just this other night, my opponent got hurt in our match, and it's a significant, like, he's gonna have to have surgery. He's gonna be out for 12 weeks. It wasn't good, but like, I was 8.5 hours away, and he had friends, and I'm not trying to talk bad about nobody about that. I'm saying, like, there was a lot of people there who knew him a whole lot better than I did, but I was the one that stayed, and he rode back with the guy who I rode back with, because he was also like 3.5 hours away from his house, and he couldn't drive. So he rode with the guy that I rode with, and I drove his car back to Dallas, and we got him home the next day. And then the promoter was trying to offer me money to do it and all this stuff, and I was like, I wasn't doing anything that I wouldn't hope at least one person would do for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it honestly just made me sad, because, like I said, there's people there who knew him a lot better than I did, who dipped, and we need to take better care of each other, because like, he was in a bad place, because he had, like I said, he couldn't drive because his knee was he ruptured his patella. He found out because he went to the doctor yesterday and found out finally, which we thought it was like an ACL or something worse. But
Right.
I mean, he's like, just people don't understand, like, the mental stuff, like the mental struggles he's going to have for the next few months. It's going to be crazy, because he was supposed to wrestle in Mexico the next day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and instead he was sitting in the hospital room.
Man.
And like, and stuff like that. That's like, mentally, that's not a good thing. And
No.
we need to be there to support each other and stuff like that. Because I guarantee you, he's not the only one that got hurt last weekend. I mean, there's every weekend in the wrestling, there's probably 150, 200 shows in this country at least every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's happening all the time, and especially with how social media works and everything these days, there's no reason that there's not a big community of support and, like, resources. Just people to talk to. Like, imagine if you're laid up, hurt or something, and there's just like a message board or something that you can go on and just talk to people about wrestling or about what's going on or just anything,
Right.
And we should have stuff like that nowadays, especially, like I said, it's 2022. Everything is connected. Everybody's connected.
Mm-hmm.
We all need to do better.
Exactly. I 100%. I agree with you with everything that you just said right there. I mean, we wrestlers, workers, they should show more support and help support each other when someone's down. And a lot of them, like you said, is just only out for themselves, which I have, seen that. I have seen that. I experienced, seen that before.
And it's just, more people need to understand that if one of us does better, we all do better.
Right.
We all eat good. If one of us is eating good, we're all eating good, because a lot of people tried to crap on when CM Punk came back or whatever for some reason. And I was like, that's big for all of us, because there's a whole lot of people who came back to wrestling.
Yeah.
Because CM Punk came back to wrestling.
Exactly.
And if WWE and AEW and Ring of Honor, well, I mean, I guess not Ring of Honor right now, but if the bigger places are doing good,
yeah,
then we're all going to be doing good, because those AEW and WWE only come to town once, maybe twice a year. Mm-hmm. So that means if more people are focusing on wrestling that way, they're going to start they're going to want to go to wrestling more than once or twice a year. So the next thing they're going to do is go on Facebook and type in local wrestling or, pro wrestling in my area and stuff like that. And that's when we're going to start seeing more people coming to our shows and stuff like that. And that's going to give more people opportunities to be better. Because there's people on the indies now that deserve to be making millions of dollars doing this,
mm-hmm.
but nobody's seen them.
Yeah.
And if everybody's doing good and we can get the wrestling business back into a boom, more people are going to get seen. And then, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of good people out here that are doing this stuff every single week, like just powering through. Yeah. And they deserve more eyeballs. And if we all work together, we could get more eyes, and everybody would be happy, and there wouldn't be as much fighting and depression and everything else in the wrestling like there is. All the backstage drama and all that stuff would cut down, but
right.
I'm a
yeah, I again, I agree with you 100% there. I was excited about when CM Punk did come back to wrestling because for years there, CM Punk's going to come back to this promotion, or he's going to be coming back. There's word, he's doing this, he's doing that. We caught a glimpse of him. He was standing next to a wrestling ring. He was in a building. There was a wrestling ring there. Is he going to get in it and do this again? It just, I got to the point where I got sick of hearing that. That's why I quit reading dirt sheets for the longest time.
I was reading every week.
I was reading dirt sheets.
CM Punk return confirmed.
yeah. It was, even Dave Meltzer, Mr. Wrestling informant, CM Punk is in talk with Vince McMahon and he's going to come back to. Yeah, but come on, man. The
great thing about wrestling is no one ever really knows for sure until something happens.
Exactly.
It's amazing because it's so easy to swerve people too. Because
it is.
I mean, you can put out anything and they're going to believe it.
Right.
But I mean, the CM Punk return when it actually happened was like the worst kept secret. But from what I've gathered, they did that on purpose because they knew it wasn't gonna. There was no way to hide that.
Yeah, of course.
They're in Chicago. Yeah, I mean, and it was so built up. If he didn't debut at that show, I'm fully convinced they would have burnt that building to the ground.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the timing, they did it right because of the timing. Yeah, because remember, there was no fans at wrestling shows, and AEW was just in Jacksonville, and then they moved to Miami, and we're doing stuff there for a while because things were starting to get back to where crowds can actually
happen sooner.
Yeah, and the timing was just perfect, and he played it. I think he played it out just right for the fact that with how everything was going on, and he didn't want to jump in like feet first. He didn't want to jump in and say, he waited it out and he saw how things developed with this new promotion. And then once he felt, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back to this promotion. If I go over here, I know exactly what's going to happen. I go over here, this is new territory. And I have a lot of my friends that I've worked with over the years over here. So, I mean, even he asked them, how is it working there? And it's like, really? Okay. I ain't going back here. I'm going to here. And he pretty much...
He was in a unique position where, like, he didn't need them.
No.
He could, like, he knew that he probably knew this whole time that there's a pretty good chance that he would wrestle again. But he also had the convenience of it being on his own time whenever he wanted to.
Exactly.
And everything finally worked out where he finally, 7.5 years or something like that he was gone?
Yeah, about
4 years.
Yeah, 2014.
2014, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember.
7 years, yeah. So so that's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
He was probably ready, and I mean he's still. I mean, obviously he's not the same. I mean, 8 or 7 years is a long time, but no one expected, like, no one was expecting him to come back and be that same old CM Punk because he's aged. I mean, it's not, and plus he was out of the ring for a while.
I'll tell you this, Sam.
It's good for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll tell you this. When I watched his match that he had for the first time in whatever it was, like 7-8 years against Darby Allin, you tell me who led that match.
I mean, it was like you could, like, I loved it because you could tell that Punk was leading the match because it was completely, like, in my opinion, because it was completely out of, like, that wasn't Darby Allin's style at all.
No,
kind of like he was like cover it slow. He was like, slow it down, kid. He's like, I'm gonna teach you how to work.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, because he didn't let him do the stuff until the fans were like on the edge of their seats. And then he let him get his comebacks and stuff in. I mean, it was perfect. It was almost perfectly put together.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There was like some subtle callbacks in there too for like Punk put in there. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty cool too. But it was awesome. And like that's the good thing about having like people at AEW, having like Punk there, having Brian there, people like that, because they can, like, especially Brian, because he can still work both styles. So
Yeah.
he could take like a really indie-rific guy who only knows spot after spot after spot, and he could teach him how to better, and like not like stifle him type thing, because I hate when people do that, because people have done that to me my whole time. Instead of teaching me like better ways to do the things I can do, because I can't tell how many times promoters banned me from doing the moonsault, or banned me from doing like the spinning bill kick, or wouldn't let me dive, or they wanted me to just go out there and just throw people around and body slam people and stuff like that. And that's not me. Instead of teaching me a better way of like putting the moonsault, or like taking those poison runners and taking those bumps that I can take and stuff like that, instead of teaching me a better way to do it, they would just tell me not to do it. And someone like Brian can like, he can teach someone like was it Private Party? Because I'm a huge fan of those guys. I think they're money.
Oh yeah.
Like those two, like someone like Brian. Well, I mean Hardy's doing it 2-on-2, but someone like Brian could teach them how to do like when to put all those cool, flashy stuff they can do. They can teach them when to do that, when it's going to make the most impact and get the biggest reaction, make people feel the most, and that's kind of what I think CM Punk was doing for Darby Allin. He was like, hey, these things you can do are really cool, and it's cool that you can just do them right after, take crazy bump after crazy bump after crazy bump, keep getting up. But what if you took that crazy bump and took that extra 45 seconds or a minute to let that front row register what just happened to you? That you just came off the top rope and just landed on the apron, or laying on the floor, or on the steel steps, all that stuff. Like, you just take that extra time to let that register. Like, what that may be one more kid that's on that front row for his birthday, and he might remember that. You might take that extra few seconds, and that might be that one memory that makes that kid watch wrestling for the rest of his life and show his kid wrestling and stuff like that. So you never know.
You never know. Talking about moonsaults, I mentioned at the beginning of the program that I watched a couple of matches of yours. So I pulled you up on YouTube. I put in Sam Stackhouse wrestling. Boom. First thing that popped up was from Title Match Wrestling. Shout out to them on YouTube there. Was the Mysterious Q versus Sam Stackhouse at Loco Wrestling.
Yep.
Wow. Dude, I got to tell you, man. The crowd was popping. They were hot for this match, man.
That was my first, and that was my very first like just Loco show. So that's what I'm saying. Like, did you hear that crowd in there?
Yeah.
That was only maybe the second or third time that I've ever wrestled in front of the crowd. And that was the first time I've wrestled at a Loco show.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's insane, the connection that the reception I've gotten down there and stuff, and it's just insane. Loco is coming up. They're because we got the GCW versus Loco on February 4th in Houston next month, so that's going to be crazy.
Nice.
The only match they've announced so far is Matt Tremont versus Sadaka.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't sell you on it, then that's worth the price right there. That's going to be.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Like, if it's anything, the first one was Sadaka versus Nick Gage, and Nick Gage couldn't wrestle the next day because of his match with Sadaka. That's how crazy she is.
Wow.
So yeah. So that's going to be nuts. But that match with Q, that was probably one of the better matches that I've had. So that was awesome.
What I loved about this was the psychology in the ring there, because I loved how it started out with you guys. I loved how it started out with you guys for the fact that, you coming off the ropes there, and basically it was like, you're not moving. And then once that started going there, once he got his stuff in, Mysterious Q got his stuff in, and you started getting your stuff in, then you started brawling outside the ring, and then the crowd just started going crazy, man. And then I busted out laughing for the fact that when you guys are outside there, after you threw him he got in the chair there, and he's sitting there, and you chop him, and then the camera guy's like right behind you, and all of a sudden you come flying like this, turning around, and it's like because you got hit in the head with the soda.
Yeah, I was just as surprised as everyone else.
That was
on the other camera, you can hear me because I turn around, I'm like, shit, because I turned right around, and as soon as I turned around, I was like, oh. So I was just as surprised as everyone else was on that one.
Oh yeah, I love that. I thought that was great because you guys were going back and forth so much there. You were like outside the ring there, just brawling, and then when you like tackled him into the chairs, I'm like, wow, and the crowd is just like they were loud.
That match is a perfect example of when things just work. Because that was the only time me and him have ever been in the ring together. He didn't get there until after the show had already started.
Mm-hmm.
So we had never touched each other in the ring. We'd never wrestled each other. We'd never done anything. When we locked up that first time, that was the first time we've ever touched each other. And that ended up being, like I said, we had match of the night on a card that I had barely any business being on the card in the first place. And then we ended up having what everybody was calling the match of the night. And like I said, for just the chemistry we had from never touching each other, never doing anything, and I got picked up the win too, and that was huge for me because, like I said, that was only my third or fourth match in Texas, like ever. Yeah. And Mysterious Q is not like if you ask 10 people in Texas, 9 of them are going to tell you that Mysterious Q is the number one guy in Texas.
Yeah.
So not only did I get to wrestle the number one guy, but I got a victory over the number one guy in a very, very good match that the number one guy in Texas was happy with too. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I not like the Mysterious Q. I can't say enough good things about him. He's going place. He was trained at Reality Wrestling at Booker T School.
Okay. So, yeah. I loved his work in the ring. I loved how you guys did that match because it just you guys told a really good story. Because when I started watching and seeing the psychology of it, of how the match went and stuff, I loved it because you guys told a really good story there, and then you threw in the spots. Yep. The spots there when you were going up to the top, the commentary is like, he's going to the top. It's like, I'm like, what is he going to do now, man? And then when he well, let me throw this in there real quick. When you did the Samoan drop, I was like, yeah, I love that. I love it when a big guy does the Samoan drop because like mentally you can see you're like, ooh, man, because you know that's gonna hurt with the force and the weight of a big guy. I love it when a big wrestler does a Samoan drop on someone because it's just like mentally in that image and stuff, it makes you cringe, and it makes me cringe.
One of my favorite moves too.
Yeah.
Love it.
I love that when you threw in that Samoan drop there, but going up to the top rope there, I didn't know what to expect, and then when he got you up, oh my God, I've never felt that in my life. Like I've never been picked up like that ever in my life. So that was a different feeling for me because and he took like steps with me on his back and then threw me. And that's like I said, I can't say that man. Yeah, he is very good. He is very good in the ring. Wow, when you took that, when you hit the mat after he did that, the crowd went ape shit. I have to say about that. When you hit that mat, what mentally went through your head there as soon as you hit the mat like that? I was still trying to collect whatever I felt. I can't tell you what I was feeling because I've never felt that before. Like I was just up there on this man's back. Being the size of me on a grown man's back is not something that I've ever felt before. So I was just, and then the next thing I know, I was flying through the air and I hit the ground. So I was like, okay. I was like, that's what that feels like. I was like, why do I do that to people? I was like, I don't like that very much. And I like the coming off the ropes with the spinning heel kick. That was a surprise right there. That was a surprise. I didn't expect that. And then when he did the Hurricanrana, man, wow, that right there, I didn't expect that either. But what got me was there with the finish there, a little shades of Big Boss Man. Love that. I love that. And then going there
basically all my moves are either Big Boss Man, Vader, Umaga, and Samoa Joe. That's basically me.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you Vader, Big Boss Man, those guys were big, and you move like a big guy. I have a friend who's been in the business for many years, and we get in discussion sometimes talking, and I say that we talk about a big guy going up against a little guy, and I'm old school about it, and I agree with him. But like, big guy goes up little guy, big guy wins. Okay, yes. The only time the little guy should win is if ref get distracted, outside interference. That I can accept that, but have a little guy just beat a big guy clean. Come on now,
Sorry.
but no, he was a good sized guy. He was a good sized guy.
I won against Q, but I have definitely lost to some little people.
Yeah, I can see it. Like if the little guy, has outside interference to help him win.
Anytime I've ever lost to a little guy, it was a big move that did it.
Yeah.
So, because I lost to Fuego in that scramble match, but he hit me with a Canadian Destroyer.
Okay,
so.
I can accept that. I can accept that, man. I won't hold it against you.
I feel like bringing down almost 500 pounds on top of their head. I feel like that's believable. I feel like that's a believable ending.
Now, the second match that I watched of you was because as soon as I saw the title, I said Texas Strong Style. I said, dude, I got to see this. So you had your match against Angel Camacho. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a sucker for when I see two big guys get in the ring, because they can, two things to me can happen when I look at this. One, these guys are going to tear each other up, or two, they're going to tear each other up, and they're going to tear up the arena at the same time. People's going to be running, and it's going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of both. Now, how did that going when you're going up against an opponent like Angel there, and how was the mindset for that right there, going into that right there?
Well, I've known Camacho for, years. Me and him had a match in 2000. Where's it at? I got the little thing. 2018, I believe, and we got match of the year in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So me and him, we've known each other for a while. And it was crazy because I'd always heard about him because he was wrestling down in a place called IZW down here. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people compared. They said that he was just like a darker me because we look alike, we act alike, we're about the same size. I'm just a little taller than he is, but we talk alike, we act alike, we have the same, we act a whole lot alike. So everybody always compared him to me anyway. So then we finally got to meet each other and wrestle. We clicked. So it's me and him actually on January 29th coming up at the same place, King of Sports, which is at Texas Strong Style. We have a unsanctioned dog collar chain match. So
okay.
That's in 3 weeks. So that's going to be.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it was funny because the last show, I don't know if it was that match because we've wrestled each other. This next one will be the third time there. A kid came up and kicked him because we were fighting out in the crowd. And we were sitting on the bleachers, topping each other. And out of stage left comes this little kid, runs up and just kicks him right in the shin and runs away. It was hilarious.
Wow, man.
It was awesome.
That's nuts, man.
Angel's a good dude too. That's two guys. You watch two matches with that, two guys that fit the thing I was talking about earlier. Two guys who are out here who are just absolutely killing it. Because Camacho, he's done he's taken Spanish flies off the top rope, being like big as he is and stuff like that. So I mean, he's done some crazy stuff too, and like people just the eyes need to see stuff like that,
Right?
And it's crazy because the stuff that I can do would be a whole lot less impressive when they find out that there's other dudes out here doing the stuff too. It's just it's it because like I was talking to my buddy the other day, like stuff's kind of blowing up right now, but I've not changed anything. Like all the moves that everybody is seeing right now that I'm doing, it's all stuff that I've been doing for 10 years. Like I said, just no one saw because everybody was talking about when I wrestled Fuego, and people understand I've wrestled Fuego probably 20 times because me and him started in the same place because he cut his teeth in Oklahoma and Texas too. So I've wrestled him plenty of times before. There's a match on YouTube on his channel that's got like 100,000 views or something like that of me and him in a ladder match.
Wow!
Because he gives me the Poison Rana in that ladder match, and people went crazy. I also took a bite out of a ladder in that match, and that was not a good choice.
Ooh!
Because I had two people on the ladder. I went for the moonsault, and they moved out of the way.
Oh man!
I stood at the I don't know. You can see there's a chip in my tooth right there from that because I took a bite out of that ladder. It was not a good idea.
Wow.
Would not suggest it.
That's nuts, man. That is
no matter how
nuts.
hungry you are. Don't
Wow. Well, all I got to say is, Sam, this has been great talking with you and talking about wrestling and just talking about your matches and stuff. What I know you mentioned the dog collar match. What else do you have coming up here that people should look forward to?
On the 21st, I have Loco wrestling again down in Houston, wrestling a guy named Raxo from Laredo, Texas, and it's for the #1 contendership for the Loco Championship. So hopefully, if I can come through with that, then I'll be wrestling either Dante Leone or Akira because later on in that show, there's the main event's going to be, or I don't know if it's the main event, but it's one of the big matches because that's one thing about these Loco shows because there's Marco Stunt's going to be on that show, Hernandez is going to be on that show, Shane Taylor from Ring of Honor is going to be on there, Mickey Knuckles versus Sadika is happening on there, and I thought that Mickey Knuckles and Sadika killed each other at the ending of the last show. And that was just to set up for the match. So I can't imagine what the match is going to be like. But
right.
So yeah, I've got that on the 21st. The 22nd, I'll be in Dallas at World Class Pro Wrestling. The week after that is that dog collar chain match. The first week of February, the 4th, well, I'll be at GCW in Houston, then GCW in Dallas the next day. Then I think all next week all next month I'm in Houston. I believe because the week after that I'll be right back in Houston, and the week after that. So
yeah, you
can catch me all around, all down there. Like I can catch me on my TikTok. That's where most of my clips are and everything. TikTok, Instagram. I'm on Sam Stackhouse on all of it.
Huh. Nice. Well, it's been great, man. It's been great. And where can people find you on social media at?
Yeah, it's just Sam Stackhouse on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on all of them. You can find me out there. Like, I'm trying to build the TikTok is where a lot of the stuff started popping off because I had a few clips go viral on there. It's been a whole lot thanks to social media why a lot of this stuff's happened because, like I said, with social media nowadays, there's no reason why we can't have a whole community built up where we can share each other's clips. We can, take care of each other. So yeah, but you can catch me on. I'm always on there. I mean, fans can DM me. They got any questions if they want any T-shirts, stickers, anything like that. I also make stickers for wrestlers too. Me and my wife have a company called The Gimmick Table, and we make custom stickers, custom shot glasses, pretty much anything you made out of vinyl. We can put your logo on, or anything we can make your logo out of vinyl and put it on anything is what I mean to say. So we've got that one. And like I said, that's The Gimmick Table. That's also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We're on all of it.
Nice. Thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem. I'm definitely gonna have to get you back on here I'm just
a dude from a small town in Oklahoma that's getting to live a life that he never thought he was going to live right now. So I'm just grateful for anything and anybody who wants to talk to me or hear me talk or anything wants to come watch me wrestle. I'm grateful for all of it. I'm just I'm just holding on and trying not to mess it up.
Nice. And thank you again so much for coming on the podcast, and I can't wait to get you back on, man. Keep up with the latest shows and content from Podcast City Network over on podcastcity.net. Follow them on facebook.com/Podcast City Network, Twitter @PodcastCityNet. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Podcast City Network, on Twitch, Podcast City Network. Podcast City Network, your top source for independent podcasting. Be creative, be yourself. Whether it's a sticker for your car, a t-shirt for that special someone, or a neck garter to keep safe during COVID-19, Podcast City Network has you covered. Grab the latest PCN gear today at podcastcity.net/shop to show your support for your favorite show or shows from Podcast City Network today. Want to start a podcast trying to grow your current show? Podcast City Network is here to help. We currently offer services for social media advertising, marketing, live stream hosting, custom logo design and branding, transcript services, custom intro and outro videos, audio-video editing, press kits, one-on-one consultants, and much more. So don't wait. Contact us today. podcastcity.net/services. Head over to the website, fill out the form, get in contact with Podcast City Network. Have you ever wanted to start a podcast but didn't know how? Do you already have a podcast but you don't know how to grow it? Are you trying to find ways to make your podcast profitable? You can learn how to do it here at Podcast City Network. We offer consultant services, tutorial classes to help with learning to better expand your knowledge to grow your show. We also give access to our network of shows to help with cross promotions, guests, and overall reach while becoming a part of our ever-expanding PCN community based on people helping people. The best part is no membership fee. So what are you waiting for? Fill out the contact form below right here over on podcastcity.net/join now and sign up today. Podcast City Network, your top source for independent podcasting. Be creative, be yourself. When I want to kick back a few cold ones with my friends, I head over to City Limits Tap Room. City Limits Tap Room has a wide selection of TVs to watch your favorite sports, indoor and outdoor seating. They are pet friendly. City Limits Tap Room also has food made fresh to order, and the grilled cheese is excellent. I recommend the grilled cheese and the apple pie cider. The fries on the side, can't go wrong with that, baby. For more information for upcoming events, head over to facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room.